Welcome to Achieve Wealth through value-add real estate investing. This is the show where the guru hype is banned and you get direct insights from commercial real estate operators. If you're a passive investor, this show can help you better understand investment opportunities. And if you're an active investor, the lessons from each episode can help you to become more effective in your own deals. Now, here's your host, investor and author, James Kandasamy.
Hi, audience. Welcome to Achieve Wealth podcast, where we talk about value-add real estate investing. Today, I have two great guests. The company is called Raven Multifamily. We have Ramana Korada and Venkat Avasarala. Both of them own almost 2,000 units right now, Class B and C in the Dallas market, and they're under contract on another 300 units. And they have been looking at other markets as well, but let me get them to introduce themselves to you. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, James. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, James. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Did I miss out any of the introduction section for you guys? Do you guys want to add anything about yourself?
No, I think that sums it up.
Okay. So you guys had right now all your deals in Dallas, right? And you are looking at, or you did have some deals in the other markets as well. Can you explain what were the other markets and why did you guys focusing on Dallas or exploring other markets?
Sure. So myself, hi, I'm Venkat Avasarala. And along with Ramana, we partnered back in 2016 to get started with apartments. And we both live in Dallas. But Dallas, as you all know, it's a pretty tight market, very competitive market. And you need to have a resume in order to land a property, right? I mean, most often than not. So as we did not own any properties back in 2016. It was even so hard to even buy a 60-unit property awarded to us just because we didn't have any resume. So Ramana came up with this thought, you know what, we can keep doing that. Eventually, probably we'll get something. But if you want to expedite this, let's get out of the DFW market, prove ourselves outside the market where the market is not very competitive. So that's why we went to Oklahoma. We bought a 100-unit property there. It's a C-class property, but in the town of Norman, Oklahoma, college town. And we showed that experience and bagged a 120-unit deal in Phoenix. And Phoenix back in 2016 is a really mellow market. Right now, it's very hot, but back in 2016, not so much. So we showed this 100-unit experience from Oklahoma, and we got the 120-unit deal in Phoenix. Then we showed both of these and bought our way back into Dallas where we live. And ever since we were buying in Dallas, and we didn't go back outside of Dallas ever since, but it had to be that way back then.
So you guys went out of Dallas because you thought Dallas was overpriced and come back to Dallas once you have some track record, I guess. Right?
No, not really. Not overpriced,
but
it's just that we were not being awarded the deals.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah,
so you did try and not... Okay, that makes sense. Ramana, you want to say something?
Yeah, same thing. We were not able to get hold of any buyers, brokers or sellers' attention because we didn't have any properties in our portfolio. So These two properties from the other markets helped us to get our first deal in Dallas market.
So that's very interesting because starting 2015, right? You guys went to Oklahoma, is that, or 2016?
June 16.
So 2016 to 2019 now, which is still early 2019, you guys have accumulated 2,000 units. That means you have found some secret sauce in Dallas market on how to win the deals. Can you explain what is that secret sauce?
Yeah, Ramana, you can weigh in, man. How about you want to take this?
No, I think you do better. Okay. I will add anything.
So here's the thing, right? We strongly believe that real estate is a people's market, right? I mean, it's a relationship-based business. So it's what you can influence other people, right? So I don't know what exactly it is. I cannot articulate, but basically, I think we heard it from brokers and other investors and our peers also. Basically, we come out very thorough, prepared. We are both from IT background, and you can relate to this yourself, James, because you were in IT background as well. We don't walk into any meeting without prep, right? So we prep and we prep and we prep. And when we have the meeting, we run it in an organized fashion. We come out very prepared and organized. And after the meeting, we take meeting minute notes, right? And basically, we work towards every single day of getting things done on a timely basis, right? And this is something that we brought along with us from our IT background. And I would like to think that, we kind of impressed upon our brokers or whoever we were working with. And also we have a track record, right? So we try our level best and then some to always do exactly what we say. And when you keep doing that, you kind of develop a track record and people like to work with you. And I would say that other than that, it's not rocket science at all.
So let's go a bit more detail into that, right? Because it's important because a lot of people could not find deals or could not win the final interview, whenever they go into the final, what's best and final, right? So in the best and final round. So I think that's what you mean when you go into a meeting with the broker or the seller, you guys are really prepared. So let's dig down deeper into that. So let's say when a deal comes, you guys underwrite it and you submit your deals. And I think it's as usual, you want to make sure you go to the best and final, right? So, and after that, let's say you go to the best and final where you get interview into the seller. So what exactly would you guys do to get that confidence to the seller?
Sure. So let's take an example of the 306 unit property, our very first property in DFW, right?
Okay.
So we we own about 220 units outside Dallas, but nothing in Dallas. But our very first property in Dallas had been 306 units. It's called Raven Apartments. Marcus and Richard sold that to us. So we were underdogs there. We won this particular property in an interview, literal interview, like where the seller was actually interviewing us and one other party, and then they chose to award it to us. So again, the idea is the best and final, these interviews is just the closing part, but the whole process actually starts well in the beginning, right? The day when you go to actually tour the property, you better show up with all the relevant information thoroughly analyzed and reviewed on your side, and just don't go ask some basic questions. Right? Shows the broker that this person actually want this deal. They invested a lot of time and effort into this thing, and come up with some relevant questions that you cannot get out of an OM or a T12 or a rentro, right? And then discuss with a broker on basically get some help with underwriting on just involve broker into this underwriting process a bit. I'm not saying that you should just underwrite based on exactly what the broker says, but involve them and make them a part of the process, right? So they will get also invested into this process of your acquisition process, right? So you build up from that. And then you put yourself in broker shoes and seller shoes and say that if I'm a broker, what would I want to see in buyer? If I'm the seller, what I would want to see in the buyer. So in that particular case, we came to know that the seller was thinking to refi it. And they were working with one particular lender at that time. And guess who we tried to get the quotes from, and guess who we put on the interview call? We brought the broker from the same exact company, right?
Oh, okay.
So
this is a lender's broker. This is a mortgage broker, right?
This is mortgage broker, right?
Okay, got it.
And actually a DUS lender in this particular case, actually we put a DUS lender on the call and the mortgage broker, but the DUS lender from the same exact DUS lender that the seller was trying to use. And they had the loan. They already had the loan with that particular DUS lender, and they're trying to refi the loan with them. So we kind of, again, remember, this is our very first deal. We don't have a lot of track record, and we have zero track record in Dallas. So we had to go. See, when you're well established and developed, probably you don't have to try this hard, but you always have to assess your current situation and try to put yourself in other people's shoes and see what they're looking at you. When they're looking at you, what are they seeing? And try to see what I can do to gain advantage. And in that particular case, that made a hell of a difference because we brought the same DUS lender and they felt instantaneously comfortable because DUS lender batted for us and said that, these people checked out. This is what we are looking at on the loan proceeds and all that. So instantaneously, they became comfortable and they awarded us the deal.
So
to add that, I know we closed 2 more deals with the same, mortgage broker. So that helped us to get the DUS lender on the call. If it was your first deal, they wouldn't care to join, right? But that kind of helped us. The track record with 2 deals already helped big time.
Okay, yeah, because that was one of my questions. How did you know the right dust lender, right? So,
Right.
So it was basically I would say, how did you guys find out what this was the exact dust lender that the seller was using? Is it
This is Yardi and all that. This is common knowledge, right? I mean, if you actually go into Yardi and put the property name, we know who did the loan, what is the loan amount, the terms when they originated, and all that, right?
Okay.
It's luckily we happen to use the same exact dust lender for our property in Oklahoma and Arizona. So luck kind of favored us there. But even if that wasn't the case, we would have went and got that particular dust lender onto the call one way or the other. We have to figure out the details, but I always have to work towards what's the end goal is here.
Okay, got it. So just to clarify for the audience, dust lenders are usually, DUS stands for Delegated Underwriting Services. Basically, Fannie Mae gave I can't remember how many, 30 or 60 dust lenders.
40 people.
Yeah,
40.
Across, how many?
40.
Okay, 40 dust lenders across nation, which is, they delegated the underwriting portion of it to these lenders to help them underwrite, because, just as a part of the scheme for them to do the business, right? So basically, you can get access. I mean, you can Google dust lenders and get access to them, or you can go through your mortgage broker to access to dust lenders, right? So coming back to the preparation to meet broker when you're doing a tour, because I think that's important. A lot of people, including me, I just go and say hi and bye to the broker, but usually I underwrite my deals before I go and see them, right? But how to be really, really prepared when you go and meet a broker? Because I think that's important. As you mentioned, it gives a lot of perception to the broker to say that these guys are really serious, right? I mean,
right.
They are the liaison to the seller. And if they can give a good word out to the seller, that takes a long way, right? What are the things that a person need to be prepared before they meet the broker for a tour?
Sure. So what I would say is that number one is there are three components in my mind that I have to check, right? So one is the business plan itself.
Mm-hmm.
Or am I buying into this business plan or not? Because every broker has a pitch, right? Sometimes, right? And the more reputed the broker is, the more accurate that whatever they put in the OM that you can subscribe to that, right? I mean, the more reputed the brokerage is. So, but still you have to vet that. Like for suppose one of these brokers always puts, you do this small patio extension and you're going to get $50 rent bump. It might be true in some cases, right? I'm not saying that doesn't work at all, but may not work in every submarket, in every neighborhood, right? So you have to go look for the comps and all that. So, and you can drop those names of those, like for suppose, let's say if I go to see this particular property and I tell the broker, hey, I read what you wrote in the OM. So basically you're saying that if I spend about $800 extending this patio, then I'm going to get a $50 rent bump. And I cross-checked with that property, and those two properties are already getting it. So I kind of agree with you. So this is how you make a connection and involve the broker onto the team. And I'm not saying that you have to agree on everything, but find the common points. And also, even when you try and go into the negotiations, into tough negotiations or anything at all, start with a yes, right? Find something which we both can agree upon and start hitting those points. And once you build up a yes momentum, yes, and then you come to a point where we don't disagree. But since you have established a yes momentum, right? So both parties would be more willing for a compromise. That's a small detour from your question, but that is what I try to establish. So basically, I go through all the business plan and then discuss the same with the broker and kind of establish a rapport saying that, yes, you wrote that, I verified it, checked out. So I'm trying to build a rapport here. Now, then then comes this question, say water savings. I see that you think we can make that kind of water savings, but in my experience, that didn't quite happen that way all the time. What do you think? Where do you think you get? So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to build the rapport with the broker on every aspect. That shows that, this guy really spent time, effort, made calls, did everything he has to do. So in the broker's mind, you're trying to get ahead of everybody else because not many people may not do all that the legwork before showing up and touring the property. The second thing is debt, right? Obviously, you have to pull debt. debt quotes. And also you have to share that information, right? You may not have to share exact terms and all that, but some general idea on who you're working with debt, and try to give that comfort feeling. And everybody knows everybody these days, right? But if the broker knows that, okay, you're working with that I know him very well. That kind of, again, a second leg of coordination over there. And the third thing is equity, right? Then broker will not ask you all these things, right? He will not. Most of people don't feel comfortable quizzing you like this. You're kind of their client at there. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to show you the property, try to sell you something, but they're not going to interview there, right? So they're not going to ask you how prepared you are. They're not going to ask you where you're bringing debt or equity from. But if I take the initiative of sharing the way I am approaching on these three fronts, the business plan, how I'm underwriting, how I'm bringing my debt, how I'm bringing my equity, I share that with broker. And I personally think that will help you go several rungs up the ladder in the eyes of broker.
Okay. So
just to add that,
go ahead.
You have to make sure that you go through all the financial that broker provided. I mean, obviously accurate, but it has to fit into your business plan. Make sure that, for example, water conservation, right? If you want to, do this conservation, you have to make sure the water bill is high enough so that it will help you reduce your expenses. Okay. Similarly, I mean, you have to read through rent roll, like left to right, right to left, top to bottom, bottom to top. Make sure to find all anomalies. Just to make sure you're not getting into something you really don't want to. You can clean up the property, but not the entire neighborhood, right? So make sure you understand what you're getting into. And if you, like Venkat said, if you have a plan out on the business plan, equity, and debt, as long as you're well prepared, you have pretty good chance that you can, get into it.
So you guys would have done underwriting and ready to go even before meeting the brokers. Is that right?
That is correct. We only go show up the property only if the numbers work. Okay. Otherwise, we won't.
Yeah. It's the rest of everybody's time. Yeah.
Same thing with me. I'll underwrite everything first before going and see the broker. I know a lot of people who, whenever a deal comes, they say, let's set up a tour first, right? And then later go and underwrite it, right? But I think the bad part about doing the second option is basically you miss the opportunity to show how serious you are with the broker, right? Especially on a hot market like Dallas, right? Because they want to make sure that people come prepared and spend their time wisely, I guess, right?
No, I would say that no reputation is better than bad reputation, right? Again, if you start hitting up all these brokers without prep, and if they get a gist, you know what, this guy's just showing up, it won't work well. But I concur with you there. The prep is the key.
So do you guys look at every deal that you get through the mails, through the broker email blast, or is it more through personal relationship or what? Because
Ramana, you want to take it?
So we do take a look at each and every deal that comes into our mailbox, but doesn't mean that we underwrite each and every deal. Okay. We want to make sure the location is critical, right? We want to make sure we are buying the properties in the right area. Okay, the median income, demographic, traffic. Property has to be located on the main road. If it's not visible from main road, you have to spend extra dollars to market the property. So we have, a few pointers that we look for each property. If it doesn't qualify, we just delete the email.
So can you list down like top 3 things that you look for to? It's basically a sniff test, right? What you're doing is a sniff test. Right.
Oh, absolutely. So location is critical. Median income, and the look and feel of the property. I mean, we can improve the property, but it's not as you cannot make a Class C property into a Class A property, right? Mm-hmm. So definitely, the business plan makes the call there. But location, demographic, and median income, those are the killers for me to start with.
Just to add to that, if you want to dig deeper on that, let's say if you see a small culvert or stream or something like that, we immediately check the flood zone. Right? I'm not saying that you should not buy flood zones, but you know what, the insurance will go through the roof. So as long as the underwriting works with bigger number of insurance, then it's fine. And another thing is, let's say if you're trying to buy 150 unit, And right next to it, there is a brand new 2008 built low-income property with 450 units in it. I mean, I wouldn't go there because it's hard to compete. It's a much nicer asset, newer asset, larger asset, and low income. There's no way I can turn a profit there any easy way possible. So these are kind of things. Again, you need to, the first thing is this, you actually need to read the OM. And reading OM literally takes about 20 minutes. You can skim the data. You don't have to read every word. There are a few sections, like a section where the broker actually talks about the strength of the location and talks about the strength of the property, right? The asset itself, like it has new roofs, things like that, right? So as you read them, what happens is you will have further need to look into a few things, right? And obviously, you look at the property in the Google Maps, the Google Maps kind of thing, and also to read the reviews, Google reviews, apartment.com reviews. Oh my God! I mean, it tells you a whole lot about the.
So you look for good reviews or bad reviews?
I only look for bad reviews because
yeah, absolutely. It's value add, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
For example, right, recently somebody sent us a large property on MacArthur. Now, this is MacArthur, Irving. I mean, what's there not to like, right? Decent. But then again, we started looking at it and we see that 95% of them are one bedrooms. Nothing wrong with that. It's not something that we are very thrilled about. It's hard to tie down the families there with one bedrooms. We want larger units, at least 2 bedrooms, where people pile up all the stuff, and there should be a barrier to move away from your property, right?
Got it.
If all they have is an airbed and a bicycle,
they can move anytime, right? Yeah, the turnover is usually high.
Yeah.
So what about the median household income? What's your criteria? Because that's part of your Sniff test.
Yeah. So I would say that at least we wouldn't look at anything less than 35. 35 is like really, really bottom. So everything else should be strong. Like there should be a strong value add component. If we are buying a $35,000 1 mile, only 1 mile matters. We don't even look at the 3 mile and 5 mile and all that. Only 1 mile matters in our book. And if we are trying to buy a property with $35,000 household median income, everything else better check out very well, right? Meaning the asset quality should be okay. The demographic mix should be okay. We don't want any concentrations. And then there should be at least like $50, $75, $100 rent bump. Then we would venture into 35. Anything less than 35, it's just not worth it. I'm not saying you cannot make money on those. I know a lot of people who really do well buying roughest properties. It's just that we are syndicating these deals. So we are taking money from, for investment, we are taking money from this working people who actually had to work a year or two to amass that $75,000 or $100,000 that they're giving to you. It's just not proper way for us to take that money and go into a riskier assets. Maybe the reward will be good, but it's just the risk is also high. So we just don't look at that lower end of the market. We try to sit between 35 to about 60,000 median income. Obviously, the higher the better.
So
to add another point, so price per door, right? So our going in cap rate. If it is crazy cap rate, definitely that is something we don't need to spend a lot of time to. Of course, every property will come up with some value add strategy. But, we don't want to buy a C-class property for a 2 cap or 3 cap, where you can buy Class A for 5 cap. So, that's another item that we look at before we delete, the email.
Right.
Got it.
Obviously, you have to get the whisper price. And it all this takes, again, once you keep doing that, you will just do it subconsciously, right? I mean, you don't sit there and make a spreadsheet to track all these things, but you know what the key items that you need to know. And if the deal breakers, basically, right? So for us right now, if we see a large flood zone, it's a deal breaker. If we see a concentration of a particular demographic, it's a deal breaker, like that. So basically, once we weed out all these deal breakers and spend about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and Yardi is a great tool to do this, right? So once you run Yardi, it just became so much easier to check these properties out.
Absolutely. Do you guys look at the rent range? I mean, you can buy a big property as well, right? Like a big townhome, right? Do you guys look at that, or do you? And I know you don't look at the 1 bedroom, so too many 1 bedrooms. I mean, you're not thrilled about it so much, right? So, do you guys look at the rent range?
You mean to say like surrounding properties, like single families, how much they are renting
No,
for?
not single family. So let's say you can buy townhomes, right, which is like 1,500, 1,600 per unit rent per month.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys look at that kind of deals, or it doesn't matter, or it doesn't matter?
So we don't own any townhomes yet. We are not opposed to it. But again, what we are looking for is renters by necessity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as the rent actually goes up and up, like let's say 1,300, 1,400, 1,600, 1,800,
Mm-hmm.
you better be in a really nice location, right next to a big financial business district or something like that, so that you don't have to worry about, yes, my rent is $1,800, but I don't care. Once this guy moves out, somebody moves in. That, unless that is the case, the higher the rent, I personally perceive it to be risky to play in that area. We would want to, and we don't want to be at a $500, $600 rent also, right? So we want, our sweet spot is something like on a one bedroom, maybe 800 to let's say 1,200, 1,300 on the higher end. That is our sweet spot. Again, this is where you get renters by necessity. And also the larger the unit, what happens is they accumulate stuff and they just, it's hard to move out, right? Because I was a renter once. And when I was in school, all I had was like my cycle. Right, and a couple of suitcases, and that's it. It was so easy. I moved like 4 different places in 2 years, right? But I mean, that experience is something that I can never forget, right? So we want people to come in, and also not just because of their luggage. We want people to stay there because it's a nice place for them to be as well, right? So again, we look at the rent roll. That's obviously the next step, right? If like 90% of these leases originated in the last 1 year, obviously that tells us something. So we're dealing with a high turnover property, and it's very tough to, operate those kind of properties as well.
Yeah. There is I would say the volume of renters reduces at the binomial curve, right? You have a binomial curve where in the middle, where you have certain rent range where you have a lot more renters.
Yes.
Right. When the market shifts, when you go towards the end of the tail end of that curve, you're going to have a less number of people. And when the market shifts, that people may not be there anymore, right?
Right.
They're like class A people, right? So it's a slightly different market.
Right. So renters by choice, that choice can change at any time. Maybe a guy meets a girl, they get married, have kids. Well, they don't want to live in an apartment no more. They want a house. Right.
Correct, right. Or they want to go into a high-rise building, right? So now,
there you go. So we want people that they are renters by necessity, so they'll continue to rent. Now, then, what happens is, okay, what do I do to just keep them there? Just treat them well, take care of their work orders. Okay. If they really want to move out, offer them a upgraded unit for a smaller bump or whatever. The retention measures kick in at that point.
Okay, got it. So you guys were doing a lot of. In the beginning, you had a lot of on-market deals, right, where you see OMs and all that. I'm sure at this point of time, you get a lot of off-market deals. Is that right?
We do, but unfortunately, this is the nature of the off-market, right? Off-market is technically not off-market.
Yeah, that's not really off-market.
There was this property, right? We bought this property called Surround in Irving, and we closed it on February 21st. So very close to that, there was another 200-unit deal which came off market, right? Mm-hmm. And they were asking 95 a door. It's not penciling in 95 a door, right? Okay. So they're saying, no, seller is going to list it. Let's move. And then what happened next week, a very big brokerage actually listed it, and their whisper price is like 88. That's $7,000. That's right. Yeah. So, more often than not, what happens is that owners want to test the markets before they actually, just to hold they obviously have some kind of a thought on who they want to list the property with. But before they do that, they just float the property around.
They want someone to underwrite it for you.
Yeah, right. So just to see if anybody will take a bite, and it's worth the shot. It doesn't cost anything, so why not? Yeah. But we do get, I would say about our 9 properties, I would say about 1, 2, 3, 4 of our 9 properties are off market. 4 of our 9 properties they're true off market, right? They're true off market, meaning nobody else is looking at us. It's just us and nobody else, right? That is how we define. They're very far and few between, so we're not going to hold our breath for that. But we sift through all the so-called off markets which come through our table looking for our next off market, but we're not opposed to buying listing deals also. And one of the issue with the listing deals is the smaller the deal, the greater the number of bidders, right? Right now, there's a lot of euphoria in the market, equity and the debt, everything is available. And that translates to the bidding wars, right? Up until October of 2016, actually February of 2018, we were buying around 140, 150 unit, that asset class, right? I mean, that size of the properties. Then what we noticed is like every time we had to fight with, so many people, compete against so many people. So in order to elevate ourselves from that competition, then we started buying 300 units plus deals. And our last 4 deals, including the one which we are buying, we did HRV, CeeLo, Surround, and this one. So yeah, I mean, our latest 4 deals on average, it's average size of this is 350 units. And here you get a lot less competition, right?
Got it.
You get a much nicer product for a decent price. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. So see, when market is so hot, these sellers are trying to get, sell it via off-market route. I mean, off-market, right? Definitely, they're just testing the market and giving to the broker who can get the best. But is it really happening? Not in every case. For example, we looked at a property in Jacksonville. This broker whispering at 87 a door, but ended up being sold at 78 a door.
Yeah.
It's a $9,000 per unit difference.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get scared. I mean, not scared, but, to buy that off-market price is not making sense at all.
Yeah.
No property is getting, getting the right debt. Market is so hot, so nobody is going to, I wouldn't say nobody, but it's tough to make these off-market deals work out.
Yeah. It's called off-market premium.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, off market means unless the broker knows you that you are the best buyer for some reason, right? And they come to you and say that, hey, we're only giving out to 3 people and we think you would be one of the better ones because you have properties nearby or you like this kind of deal. That's an off market, right? Yeah. Or a deal falls out of contract and they want someone to close it quickly. That could be an off market. Or you're buying it direct from the seller, right? That is a real off market. All other things actually on market, but term off market to make it sound sexy, I think, right? So.
Yeah. But here, in our case, all these 4 properties, we got to buy them weeks, all 4 of them, weeks before it's getting listed. So actually they had a listing agreement.
Correct.
And they were working on the OM, and it takes them 2 to 3 weeks at least to launch them, right? Because they have to send them somewhere to take pictures, they have to write up, underwrite, and all that. So while that is happening, parallelly, some brokers feel comfortable showing it to some of their clients. And all these 4 properties, had we not buy these 4 properties, they would have hit the market with the same listing rate.
Yeah, I think even for brokers, it's much easier for them to find a buyer and just close it off market. Otherwise, they have to do 100 tours. They have to do best and final. There's so many process. There's property management stuff, getting visits and all that. So much pressure, right? So they rather do it the off market, but I think they want to find the right buyers, and the right buyer need to move very quickly in the off market situation if the numbers works out, right?
And I think the seller psychology, from what I have seen in the transactions, our transactions and the others' transactions, what I saw, James, is there are 2 types of sellers, right? Hey, I got in at 40 a door. As long as I get 75 a door, I'm more than happy, right? I'm way past my projections. My investors are happy. I'm happy. I want to get it done quick. Because now time's money, right? Because I'm planning what to do with this money. The interest rate might go up. Then maybe I will not get 75, right? The smart sellers, sometimes what they do is they work very quick, right? They're very agile. So they work with one broker. They don't, sometimes you won't believe you get the same single deal from half a dozen. It happened to me. Over the period of 2 to 3 days, 6 different big brokerages called me with an off-market property, and this seller didn't know what he was doing. He just blasted it out to all the
brokers.
And that's how not to do it, right? But all these properties that we bought are something like, they understood a lot can change between now and 4 months, which it takes to actually market the property and sell it, right? That way. right? So if somebody wants to move quick and if they have a number in mind, as long as somebody's going to pay that number, they'll transact, right? Off market. So that has been the case. The other kind is, hey, I'm not in any hurry. I don't care what I bought it at. I want to see every last dollar. Maybe 75 is not going to, maybe somebody will pay 78 a dollar. Let's see what happens kind of people, a little bit more adventurous kind of people, right? And especially people do that if they have nothing to worry about, right? I mean, they don't have a big prepayment penalty and interest rates are pretty stable or whatever the case, they will go that route, right? So we try to work with our brokers. So once in a while they get to transact with this type of seller, which I talked about in the first case, right? Where as long as you pay them this price, they're happy, right? So that is the kind of properties that we want. Those are the true off-market properties, if you ask me.
So Dallas is a super hot market, right? What are the things that you guys doing differently in the contract terms to get these deals?
Ramana, you want to hit it?
You mean to say PSA in the?
Yeah, what are the terms
Sure.
like day one hard money, feasibility period? What are the things that you guys think is essential to win a deal there?
So we are being conservative there. We want to work with sellers and brokers in order to make everything smooth for them. Market is like, I think 30 plus 30 or 30 plus 45. But, based on our experience, we can close even much shorter time period. But just to keep ourselves some wiggle room, we are doing 21-day DD and another 39 days for closing. Usually we are requesting for a couple of extensions with additional hard money. I've seen some cases like, a couple of 30 days extension, for crazy, buyers, I would say. Not everybody's case is different, but, deals are working that way as well. We are doing enough work before getting into any property, making sure that, this is the property that we want to buy, right? So we are comfortably giving the day one hard money, not a whole lot like on 1% on every deal, but what is reasonable for the deal, we are just coming up with that hard money and doing it on day one.
James,
complete stack.
James, just to add to that, right? So our terms are not vastly different, but here's the differentiator on us, right? We work very hard to close the property ASAP. Okay. In the worst case scenario, one day before the 60-day mark, right? Just like Ramana said, obviously we're not trying to be a cowboy here. We have standard 60-day contract with couple more 15-day extensions. So technically we have 90 days to close, right? But we won't use it. We work as if we only have 55 days to close, right? We do it for a couple of reasons, right? When we close these properties well before the 60-day mark, it really makes the broker look like a hero in front of the seller, right? Seller will be like ecstatic. It's like, oh my God, I mean, you got me a best buyer, right? Yeah. So we work towards making our brokers look like superstars, right? That's the mindset we have. Like for suppose we purchased a 400 unit property and we went into contract on a Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the DD is done. We did ask 21 days due diligence, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the DD is done on a 432 unit property with 2 different vendors, walking all the units, checking everything which need to be checked. And the reports will be spit out by Friday, the following Friday, right? So it's just that we work so fast, so agile, if you will, and in a very organized way with a lot of communication. A broker doesn't call me. Right now, we are under contract to buy this property, 332 unit property in Fort Worth. It's been a while since I spoke to the broker. Ever since we went into contract about 2 weeks back, that broker doesn't even call us. I mean, because he knows that things get done, right? So that is the reputation that we carry forward. Every deal we close it that way. And even in this case, we have until 5/27, May 27th to close the property. Right now, we brought it forward by 5/22. So we're working to close on 5 days before. Okay. And we are even working harder to see if we can even close on May 15th. Right. The idea is to treat your seller as your customer, right? And treat your broker as your customer and give them the best possible experience, smooth, right? Now, what does I'm not saying that you agree to everything that seller says or broker says. That's not what I'm saying at all. The more you prepare, the more organized you are, the smoother transaction it would be, right? I don't wait until a lender asks me. Ramana and me keep everything ready, anticipating that broker will ask that, seller will ask that, title company will ask that. So just run a tight ship, and more importantly, equity, right? Equity is 9 out of the 10 times that is the one which gets delayed. So as soon as the LOI is signed, we start working on the flyer. We send the flyer out in the same email. We schedule the webinar.
Got it. Yeah.
And then we do the webinar at ASAP so that we can quickly get the money in the bank and do the transaction.
Yeah. Brokers love buyers who are very, very organized and get them to look like a rock star. Yeah, Ramana, you're saying something?
Yeah. So just to add one more thing on the PSA, right? Like nowadays with day one hard money, access agreement, to check on few high cost items would be a good idea. Some brokers allow that, some sellers would allow, and some do not. But you have to make sure you have a right GC who can make that by visual inspection, if they can come up with some numbers or just check boxes, that would help buyers as well.
Got it. Yeah, the smoother we make our broker's life work, which is what a buyer's responsibility should be. I mean, you have to be really, really prepared in terms of lining up your equity, lining up your debt, lining up your insurance guy, so that the broker doesn't feel the pain. And that's where they're going to get more deals coming to you, because for them, it's like, oh, it's so easy to make money with these guys, right? I mean, I have to convince the seller to a certain price. Now that I have a right buyer, hey, let's do more deals, right? I mean, ultimately, everybody want to close deals and get their commissions, right? So that's important.
Just to add to that, in a market like Dallas or Phoenix, right, the hot markets, a seller might ask, right, hey, why should I hire a broker when I'm getting unsolicited offers, right? With people with good resumes and all that, right? So why should I need a broker, right? So the brokers are kind of have to justify, and it's just not meeting expectations, but they have to exceed the expectation if they want to be the top player in the market. Because 20%, in our case, I think maybe 10% of the brokers in the Dallas market does 90% of the deals, right? If a broker want to be in the top 10%, they have to consistently exceed the seller's expectations, right? Correct. So they're already working under a lot of pressure, right? So if you can make their job easier, their life easier, they'll love you for that. And they can.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's just, it's not one-time business. It's for your life, right?
Yeah.
So, that's where that repeat business comes into picture.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go into a little more detail into the value add stuff. So you guys do a lot of value add. I mean, you guys are doing, how deep of a value add do you guys do? I mean, right now on the recent few deals that you guys have been doing.
So if you talk the recent, so last October, it appeared that interest rates are going to take up, right? They're not going to come back, right? I mean, we hit 325, I think, on the 10-year treasury, and people started doing loans at 5.40, 5.4%, 5.3%. I mean, it was crazy.
Right?
That
was crazy time, yeah.
Right. So then we had a big mind shift, right? So if you want to go buy something with a bridge loan and try to settle it into a permanent loan, God knows where. I mean, see, Fed, once it starts raising traditionally, right?
It's supposed to go up
until they go all the way to there, right? So we kind of started to, and also we are so late in the cycle, right? I mean, usually a cycle between recessions is about 9 to 10 years, and it's been 9 years, right? The last time recession ended was back in 2009, and we are in 2019. So we are actually at the end of one of the greatest periods of economic expansion in this country. So right now we have taken some defensive posture. What that means is, again, we don't want to do a straight yield place. Yield is good because you go there, first year it's 10%. If they don't have a value add, next year, maybe your expenses will grow faster than your income, and maybe that'll become 8% and then 6% and then 5%, right? So we definitely are not looking for very deep value add distressed assets, nothing like that. But as long as if there is at least 30 to 50% left meat on the bone, then we are going into these deals with an expectation that, hey, we're going to do that value add and it's a good yield play. The good yield plays usually give you a good leverage. On our latest deal, we got 83% LTV, 7 years IO, and 155 spread. So right now, we just locked the rate a few days back, and our locked interest rate is 4.19%. Right? So a good cash flowing deals make sure that you get a good deal on the debt side as well. And then there is some value add left. So that is the posture that we are taking. We have to see how this 29 goes, because we're keeping our ear close to the ground to listen if there is anything coming our way. But we don't want to be caught in a very deep distressed asset doing a major value add where interest rates take off on us, or even worse if the recession were to come here. So that is our current state. But even when we are most aggressive, we always go for 90% occupied properties. We don't believe in buying 40, 50% properties. Again, the kind of equity that we are using right now, we don't want to assume that kind of risk. Obviously, it's a high risk, high reward game, but we are accepting equity from individual investors. Okay. Most of these people are not super rich or anything like that. Most of our investors are accredited, but they're not like super rich or something. They really need their money back, what they gave, and the profit that we projected, right? So we are only buying 90% occupied properties with a verifiable value add. Verifiable, when I say verifiable, either the seller prove it to us, or the immediate within the same property he has to prove it to us, or we have to be able to verify with it should be very evident, right? You should not be able to, you shouldn't have to dig deeper to see the value add. If we have to dig deeper, that means more often than not,
there's no real value add. Yeah.
That's only book value for the next buyer.
So in your experience doing all this, value add, light value add, slightly heavier value add, what is the most valuable value add that you guys think makes the most bang for the buck?
I would say floors. Definitely. So before we go into the floors and all that, right? This is what, when we start the business, we couldn't care less how the exterior looked, right? We were always about interior. Our thought process was, hey, where does the tenant live most? 99% of the time when he's on the property, where does he live? Inside the property, not staring at the buildings, right? It makes perfect sense to spend. Let's say if you only have limited dollars, only spend it interior, make it look nice, and that gives you bump. Well, we kind of dialed back from that kind of mindset. Right now, exterior is more important to us. As we saw a lot of deals being done, even from our deals and all that, what we realized is, first, you should be able to attract a quality tenant, right? A quality tenant has several options, because we are a capitalistic society. There's a lot of competition in every single thing, and apartments is not different, right? So everybody's some kind of upgrade or some kind of special. Hey, my property has a water view or whatever, right? So constantly we are competing for our tenants here. So in order to first attract a tenant, we should, as soon as a good tenant sees your property, that person has to slam their bags, take a U-turn, and come see us, right? In order to make that happen, obviously your exterior should look good, right? Otherwise, if it looks like crap, they're not going to stop.
Just drive pass by, right?
Right? So they're not going to come at all. So that I would say. I mean, let's say if you have a very limited budget, you can just do the exterior. Obviously, what that includes is the paint. And what I would tell people is, again, just change your mindset on how you see a value add a C-class property, right? I mean, 10 years back, Dallas is a second tier. It's still a second tier city, but nothing to speak of, right? But a lot changed in Dallas in the last 10 years, or several metros like San Antonio, Houston. A lot changed. So treat these C-class properties with some respect. And what I meant by that is hire a designer. Please don't pick your own colors. Hire a designer, see some renderings, and make sure that you incorporate few elements. They're not really expensive, right? Corrugated metal, horizontal cedar planks, things like that, right? So throw some design elements into it. And basically the whole idea is this. There's only so much you can do to a 1960 property to make it look like modern, right? But a little bit of design with almost the same money. You don't have to spend a vast amount of money. we spend about $5,000 to $10,000 in design, and it's really well worth it because we get renderings, very good recommendations, and all that, and make the property really pop. So that would be my first value add. And then we dial into these things like if you go into the interior side, obviously your floor, right? Number one. Then appliances. Number two is appliances. And we love appliances. Let me tell you about appliances. The beauty of appliances is as soon as you go into the property, if you see new appliances, because everybody's directly going into the kitchen, everybody's curious to see how the kitchen looks like, right? They would forgive you everything else except for appliances, because that's something that they use almost every day. They touch, they feel. Even if they host somebody, they don't want to cook on a bad appliance and all that. But the beauty about appliances is it does not cost you a single dollar in labor. You call somebody, they drop it off on the day where people move in, zero labor. And you can, and mostly sometimes you can buy gently used appliances. You don't even have to shell out $1,500, $2,000 anymore for a B and C class finish out. And you can sometimes see $50, $75 rent pop. So appliances, in my mind, is number one for me, but we kind of put it in the number two because floor is obviously important because you cannot miss it. If it looks bad, you got to deal with it. So those are my top two interior ones.
Ramana, do you agree with that, or that's simple?
Oh, absolutely. So we've been doing the same thing in pretty much all the 2,000 units, right? And add to that, we definitely the cabinets and the backsplash has to pop up in the kitchen so that they'll spend that extra time while cooking or whatnot.
Okay.
All other goodies like electric and plumbing fixtures, accent wall, every little thing adds up. On the exterior side, to attract the right tenant, right, like Venkat said, we have to make sure the grounds are clean, the landscaping is good. You have to focus on that. The signage has to be good. When next door, even though it's 60s and it presents well versus you could have 80s product and with a bad landscaping and not good signage. See, 60s, 80s, 20-year difference, but if you compare from now, 40 years versus 60 years, right? 40 years old versus 60 years old. So you have to make sure it presents to the current market standards. So if you do that, you can attract the right tenant. The quality tenant is crucial in this business.
Yes.
The guy has to come in and he has to like the property and he has to pay the rent on time. If you don't find the right tenant, then the entire business plan falls out.
Correct. Absolutely. So let's go to asset management. What are the tools that you guys use to asset manage your property? Because I know you guys don't have your own property management company. You guys are using third-party property management, right? But what are the tools that you guys use to do asset management?
No, I mean, there's not a lot of tools. We definitely have processes and procedures. Obviously, we have our weekly meetings with them. But on myself and Ramana, we run the meetings. We don't let our property management run the meetings because here's the thing. Usually, more often than not, a regional would show up on the other side, right? And we have a deal with our management company where they allow the manager to be on the call as well. Because who's on the property 5 days a week? The manager, not the regional, not the owner, not the asset manager, nobody else, the manager. And oftentimes than not, most property management companies, they don't put the manager on the call for whatever reason that is. So a regional, again, is responsible for so many other properties. So we kind of take initiative on my side, Ramana and myself, and we come prepared to the meeting. Obviously, the regional will bring the numbers and few updates, but then we have different sections, right? So obviously, we go through the collections, vacancies, evictions, and we bring up discussion points. Every call is not just simply giving updates. Our calls run as brainstorm sessions, right? Obviously, there is nothing concerning. Obviously, we skip. But as soon as we hit a point which is concerning, we brainstorm. And we treat our property management as experts, and we constantly tell them, please don't look us as owners. Just forget that we are owners. We're not here to make decisions. You make the decision. You are the experts. Our job is to just bring things up for discussion so that we have a good brainstorming session and just like how we do it in IT, right? I mean, we couldn't not use the effective policies and procedures that we used in our IT. So we bring that here. And also it gives a very good feeling for a manager because nobody's telling them what to do. Rather, people are respecting their views. And you kind of see that one other thing is like, you give responsibilities to some people and expect results. Say, hey, this is your responsibility. You got to do that. But then again, you have to give some power as well. Again, that's what I was exposed to when I was in IT, right? When my manager was managing me, they definitely have expectations from me. But they said, Venkat, this is all your call. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but this is the end result, what we are looking. So we try to give the same to our property management as well.
Okay. Awesome interview, guys. So we are at the end of the podcast. Why not you guys tell the audience how to reach you guys? What's the best way to get hold of both of you?
Sure. You can reach me at my phone number is 281-727-9238 or email me at Venkat, V as in Victor, ENKA, T as in Tango, at Raven Multifamily. Raven as the bird, RAVEN, multifamily, all one word, .com. Ramana?
Yeah. My phone number is 214-799-9127. Just to repeat, 214-799-9127. And email is Ramana at ravenmultifamily.com, RAMANA at ravenmultifamily.com.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. And I think that's it for the audience. Join us in our Facebook group, Multifamily Investors Group, where we are having serious discussion about multifamily. So I think, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
James, one last thing.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
You bring a lot of value to your investors and multifamily, whole multifamily group. Thank you so much. I mean, it's very educational. You provide a lot of insights to what you do.
Awesome.
And especially
very nice of you.
I'm in so many groups, but I never feel like, asking things and, bringing things for discussions and all that. But I feel very comfortable doing that on your group. I don't know why. It's just the way I feel.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It's really great group that you have created in Facebook.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you for the comments and nice chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode. If you'd like to learn even more, check out James's free audiobook. It's the audio version of his best-selling book on passive investing. You can get the audiobook completely free, along with other valuable resources by visiting www.achieveinvestmentgroup.com/free audiobook. Also, be sure to join our Facebook group too. To find it, just do a Facebook search for Multifamily Investors Group. Thanks for listening. Join us again for another episode next week. See you then.